Hello, everybody. So it's so exciting to be here, talking about AI to all you guys. Yeah, so as Shafreen said, we will go through a lot of concepts today and also practical building blocks. So let's see what I have planned for the first half of the session. It's not working. Okay. So my mission today is to basically take you through a journey where we will go through a practical use case of Gen AI and see how it evolves from a simple use case to a complex case. And also, we will discuss a little bit about the drawbacks with Gen AI and how we can address them in real world. And also, there are a set of key Gen AI patterns that has been recognized, so we will also introduce them. So you'll have an idea on that. And we will do some hands-on implementations. You can also follow if possible. And the other thing is, we will also highlight why integration knowledge can be useful when you are building Gen AI applications, because it's not just going to be AI anymore. So there is an intersection. So we will basically demonstrate that as well. Okay, it's not working. Yeah, so from traditional AI to generative AI, what has changed now? So if you look at what AI has been, it's basically simulating human intelligence in machines. And what generative AI does is, again, a subset of artificial intelligence. It basically involves in generating new content that can be text, images, video, any audio, and basically by learning from existing patterns. And another concept is large language models. I think you already have heard about this. So this is, again, a subset of Gen AI models, which are specialized in text generation. So they understand text very well. Yeah. So if you look at the what has happened, I mean, the things started from 2017. There was a paper called "Attention is All You Need." So with this paper, it basically opened the doors for the transformer architecture, which is actually used to build BERT, GPT-1, the first generation LLMs. And then the GPT-3 came, and Gen AI became a very hot thing because it was really good. It was beating most of the benchmarks at that time. And also, RAG paper published. So I'm not going to introduce the concept now. I will describe it later, but it's a very important milestone. And again, ChatGPT was made available. So that's a very important milestone because a lot of people, end users, they started using AI and in their life, right? So it's like the first time AI is accessible to everybody and it's usable to everybody, useful to everybody. And also, other thing is the Gen AI API has become a very wide-known thing. I mean, people is not OpenAI. There are a lot of other vendors who try to basically pre-train the models and publish them as Gen AI API. So that's a very important point for us because with that, a lot of other opportunities started to come. And yeah, so what's the present and the future for Gen AI? And yeah, so we don't know, but it seems to be there will be an agentic era. So we will discuss what are the agents, but keep in mind we can move forward. Yeah, so building AI application was previously mostly about basically having a lot of AI, ML, deep learning knowledge, and also a little bit of data science. So we had a lot of stuff to get it to work. But now with the Gen AI APIs and what we have right now, you don't need a lot of AI, ML knowledge. What you can do is you can basically pre-train. So you can basically use the pre-trained models, and also they are accessible through the API. So that means building AI application is now all about coding and integrations. Yeah. So having that in mind, so why don't we try to write a simple Gen AI application? So before moving forward, I will, okay, so we have like a couple of AI use cases we have implemented for WSO2Con, which is available with the mobile application. And those are like WSO2Con Assistant, which will help you to ask questions about sessions, speakers, or some general questions about products and get answers. And also there is a session advisor, which can help you to get a personalized session suggestions, so you know what you want to go and listen to. And also another feature is like helping you to find out who you can connect with similar interest, so that will suggest to who would have the similar interest. And also we have the expert finder, where you can tell your problems, and then it will help you to find the auto-buy expert. So those are the 4 AI features, and let's focus on the first feature, because it is useful to think about a real-world scenario and apply Gen AI rather than artificially creating a use case. So let's think about that scenario. So in that scenario, we just want an application that can answer questions from the attendees. So let's do a little bit of brainstorming, like how we can build this WSO2Con assistant. Yeah. So we have generative AI models, and we have been using ChatGPT. And if we ask questions from ChatGPT, it answers really well, right? So it can't be really hard, right? So we can just connect to a Gen AI model, and it should work somehow, right? So we can assume that. We can study that. So the flow is going to be like, user is going to be there, and he will talk to the mobile app, tell the question, and then the AI application will convert that to a prompt. So what prompt is actually is set of instructions, context, or the questions, whichever that help or guide the models to generate the content that we need. So like that, we can start building that. Yeah. So to build this application, I'm using one of our latest products, which we call Ballerina integrator, and this is actually, I think, kernel beta. So we will try to use that and basically implement the experience that you are describing. And other thing is, I have like done some of the works beforehand, so we don't spend a lot of time. So I have like initiated the clients, etc., that is required for our example. So let's start. So here we want to build a service, right? So I think if we go to the artifacts, we can find the HTTP service. So I will start with that. And I can give a base path. So I will just continue. And to create a service skeleton. And it has a get function, but I don't need that. I will add a new resource function. Maybe we'll use the word chat. And also, we need some input parameters coming to that one, right? So it's not, OK, I don't need a query parameter. I will change this to a post, so I can add the payload. And I have already created a type for the payload, which is a chat request, where we have a question, only the question. So I use that in my example. Yeah, so it has created me a resource function. So we are not in the Gen AI part yet. Yeah. OK, so now we can start. So what we need is the OpenAI. I mean, you are aware of OpenAI, right? So they have a bunch of models. The most widely used ones are the GPT models, ChatGPT. Also use one of those models underneath. So we can use the OpenAI client here. So it has the model creation capabilities. So I can say what the message should be. OK, to give the message, I need to give some information. So what I can do is like I can create them beforehand, before initiating that. It will be easier for us. And also you will see like there are a lot of things that we have to know while we are doing this. So I will explain like a way to avoid that also later. So we will say like we need a prompt. OK, there are 2 parts for the prompt. One part is the system prompt. and the other part is the user prompt. System prompt is where we usually give the instructions, context, all those information. And user prompt you can use to give your final question that is coming from the user. So I will follow the same approach here. I will create a system prompt here and assign the type string. And since I want to have like a lot of parameters injected here, so I am using this expression. So I will say like you are WSO2Con assistant, help attendees to get answers to their questions, something like that. Yeah, and I will save it. So I can use it in the model. Now let's go to the model and we start creating the request to the actual the API. And there I have to give the messages first. So, okay, it's easier to do like this. I can use this. Yeah, these are the parameters I need. Let's close this. So here we have to specify what's the role of that message. So it's a system prompt, that's why I have to put it there. I know, okay, it's not visible, right? So I will drag it. I know it's not very clear right now, but I just want to show you like if we build this stuff from scratch, how it would look like. That's why we do this exercise. Okay, it's not giving me the payload, right? Yeah, it's the payload, and it has the question. And also, we will use the chat model I have here. Or we can use GPT-4. GPT-4. Yeah, I think this looks good. Okay, I missed the square bracket. No, right? It's there. Sorry? Ah, yes. Thank you. Square bracket is missing? It's here, right? Okay, I already have prepared one here also. Just in case if that happens, this happens. So let's copy paste that. I know this is a little bit difficult, but I will use that here now. Okay. It's trying to auto correct that. Okay, it's created. So let's try it out also. We can try it from here. So it's actually building that and then run it down here. Okay, seems I'm already running on something. So I will turn it off because the pod is already used. Okay, it's working now. So we can ask a question like, okay, what are the AI sessions happening? And we can run it here. So this is similar to like Python notebooks. Yeah, okay, we got a response very quick. Okay, didn't return anything. Ah, yes, I know what's wrong. So we didn't have the return to our service. Sorry about that. Let me add the return here. So we can see what are the available variables. So this is the variable we want. And you can see like the OpenAI response has like a very complex structure. So you have to basically go through that, find out the message, content. Yeah, it's not easy. Okay, now we are there. Okay, let me rerun it and try it again. Okay, this time we got an answer. So it's to provide you with the most accurate and up-to-date information. We have to basically refer to the official website. So it seems like it doesn't know about this stuff, right? Because why? So let's think about it. Yeah, so it doesn't have all the answers we need. It's because there is a knowledge cutoff to the data that we have used to train, not us, but OpenAI has used to train these models. And they only know up to what they have used for their training data, and also this can lead to a lot of complications. One of the key complications is the hallucination, because this time it says it doesn't know, go and look at the website. But sometimes it can basically hallucinate and say, okay, these are sessions happening at WSO2Con right now, go and attend them. And then people will come and we don't have those sessions. So they'll be very disappointed, right? So it's a very critical thing if the hallucination happens, because that will basically mislead the users of the application, right? So how we can add knowledge to this GenAI model or this GenAI application and make it more usable? Yeah, so something like come to our mind, like, because we are talking about machine learning models, right? So something you are familiar with is to add knowledge, we can train it again, right? So can we like fine-tune these models? That's one way to think about it. And fine-tuning is one option, but it can, I mean, it may require some little bit of expertise as well, like how to structure the data, because based on the task, there can be different structure to the data that you need to use when you're fine-tuning, and also you have to be aware of like certain pipe parameters. You have to run it again and again to get it to work to a certain time. And also there is a big drawback, because this is not real time. It will take some time to fine-tune. And this agenda, we have the conference agenda that can change frequently, right? Because there are a lot of things happening. Some speakers may not be able to make it. Some may want to change certain titles, abstracts. So things will change, right? So we have to accommodate that as well. So it seems like fine-tuning is not a good option for us. So what are the other options available? So the other option is doing the in-context learning. So it's a very simple approach. We will ground the models with facts by using the prompt. So we can basically get the real-time data and put that into the prompt and say, okay, these are the instructions, this is the question, and these are the live data I have taken from the website or the API. And then we can basically ask the questions. So one interesting fact about this is the integration. So it's not AI, actually. So you can improve the GenAI model just using integrations. So let's try that also. So that to work, I need to connect to one of our backend APIs that we have for the mobile application, which already have agenda information. So I have already created the client for that application, because that will require a set of credentials, etc. So it has this agenda, event agenda operation, which can fetch the information. So I will use that. I don't think we need any configuration, so I can save it. And here, now I have the prompt written, the system prompt I have written earlier. So that one doesn't include this data that we are getting from the API, right? So let's include them also in the prompt. So I will go and edit the prompt. And I will say, okay, that's all right. They can delete the typos, etc. We have, sorry, you have, not us, you have access to this information. Make use of them when answering the questions. And I will add the information as well. So I think it's in the WSO2Con backend event, okay, that variable. Okay, I can click here and add that. And now I will save it. And let's rerun it again. Okay, oh yes, so we didn't have the string, right? So it's a record type. So I will say make it a string. Because models understand only text, right? So, and the API also understand the text. Yeah, now it's should be working. So I will say try it again. Yeah, so while it is building, so what actually we did was we fetch the data from the API whenever the question comes, and then we include that in the system prompt to the model, so a model can answer the question by looking at that data. So we can ask, like, what are the AI sessions happening? Yeah, it takes some time because we have a lot of data in the agenda. So it has to refer to all those stuff. And also, I think generation also will take some time because we have a lot of AI sessions happening. Yeah, okay, we got the answer. I was about to give up. Okay, so we have the conference that are happening. Yeah, building the AI application. So that's the one happening right now. And also we have natural programming from POC to production AI integration, all those basically sessions that are related to the AI. So yeah, so I think we are done, right? Not really. Yeah. So new level unlocked. So now you guys are also a application builder. So we have an application working which can answer questions by referring to real-time data. And what will happen, like, if the users ask about products now? Because in this case, we only feed the data about the agenda, but they will ask about products. So now what will happen? So how we can extend this application? So that means we need more data sources, and there will be some challenges. So we'll discuss that. So what are challenges here? So the challenge is, now LLMs or the Gen AI models, they have a token limit that they can consume. So they can't look at unlimited data. All the models have a limitation that they have to adhere to. So, and also, for example, the model that we use, it has like 120K token limit. And this seems like a lot, but the other problem, if we try to utilize the full context window, it will affect the accuracy also, because now it has referred to a lot of information. And other thing is, like, it will increase the response time, as we've seen already, because it took like 13 seconds to answer that question, so that's not a good experience for a chat application. And also the cost will go up because you have to pay for the usage. So if you are putting a bunch of information, maximizing the token count, that means you are paying a lot of money to the OpenAI, so they will be happy. So we need a better approach. So what's that? So the better approach to feed a lot of data is right now is the Retrieval-Augmented Generation. So that's called RAG. So the idea is very simple, again similar to the previous idea. Here, instead of trying to put all the data into the prompt, we can first filter out what are the relevant data that might help to answer the question, and then basically do the same thing that we did earlier. So I think in the diagram you can see how it works actually. So there is a user and there is the chatbot. And when the question comes to the chatbot, so there is a search and retrieval part. So that's the retrieval in the RAG. So with that, you can refer to certain databases, fetch data, or you can use a search API and basically try to search for information relevant to that. I mean, it's something we also do, right? If we get a question like how to do this stuff, and when we want to do those stuff, what we do is we go and Google it, and then we try to find the relevant links. But all those links may not be useful, but still we refer them and try to find out the information we need, right? So it's similar to that. So it can, we can build it to do the same thing. Yeah, so in the RAG, to go a little bit deeper, there are 3 aspects actually, not only 2. There has to be a data ingestion pipeline as well, which will happen first. I mean, the process that we basically get the information and chunk it, and then basically put it to a database in a way that we can retrieve it back efficiently when we have a question. And then only we have the data retrieval, which will happen for every question. So each question we have to fetch the data by basically, so there is a process called this text embeddings. So we'll give the question and create an embedding. So embedding is a vectorized representation of that question. So what we can do is we can get that vector, and then we can cross-reference that vector with all the document chunks, actually the vectors of those document chunks. So you can use like cosine similarity. There are a lot of metrics you can use, but that's the process. I think there are, maybe I go a little bit deeper into the technical aspect because I got excited, but that's the process. And then once you get those information, you do the augmented generation. That means you just put the data into the prompt and ask it to give the answer. Yeah. So let's try a case for that also, just to keep it complete. So in this scenario, in this scenario, what we have is we have a bunch of product data about BI basically added to the vector database. Actually, this is not a capability we did for the chat application we have, but we just did this so we can make it complete for you guys. So, and also I have written a retrieval function, so I will show you that first. So with this retrieval function, what we do is, whenever we get a question, we talk to OpenAI embedding models, and we get a vector representation for that question. And then there are special kind of databases for these kind of purposes, which we call them as vector databases. So then we'll give that vector to that vector database and ask it to search for the relevant documents. If you have already put the data there, so it can basically do that for us. So this is how it looks like usually. So we have the embeddings here. And this is the function I have basically created to represent the retrieval part. So we just go and plug it into our current application that we're building. Yeah, so we are calling a function now. So it's the retrieval function. And we have to give the question here. So it's coming from the payload. And the most important part is we have to put that to the prompt. So we already have the agenda data here, so I'm going to say, okay, we also have the document data. I don't have to specify it. I just say, so we have the string result here. So I didn't rename that. It got the default name, which is a bad practice, but anyway, so let's move on with that. Yeah, so we are at the data. Now we can try asking a different question, maybe doing like message routing or something, because that's a use case for BI. And I think it will take some time because it took a lot of time last time also. Okay, it's faster now. Okay, so it's saying like you have to go to the create new indication, open banner indicator, okay, yeah. And also message routing, yeah. So I think it's giving a pretty good answer. Maybe you don't understand it much, but trust me, I can verify it. Yeah, so now what? So we have integrated the agenda, we have integrated some docs. Now what we should do? So we have to go beyond that, right? So there are a lot of other information that we want to answer for you. I mean, our application should answer for you. So for example, some other information can be like conference menu details, like what are the information about the speakers, and also we have a capability to give personalized recommendation if you ask a question like what are the sessions recommended for me. And also another important capability is you can also submit your feedback through the application. So these are the capabilities that we want to bring in. So how can we extend this? So there are a bunch of data sources that we want to connect or integrate, and also there is a special integration here, that's the submit feedback, because all the other cases we retrieve data and we inject that to the prompt and we try to answer questions. But when you try to submit feedback, we are actually performing an action, not that we are trying to answer a question. So it's a very special case. That's why I have highlighted it, because this is a very special capability that we are going to build also. Yeah, so as I was saying, at first glance, it seems like we need a bunch of integrations. But there are different considerations that we have to make. One is like, should we load all the data from all the sources and then basically, I think the better word is dump it to the front, right? The prompt. No, right? Obviously, it's not the case. And also, what if like you ask a question like, no, not a question, I mean say hi, or say something that actually doesn't need any information retrieval. And also, the last point is what I was saying earlier. So how can we extend that to basically perform actions as well? Yeah, so one idea is like, what if like we let AI to do all the heavy lifting? We don't write the integration, we let it to decide. Yeah, so let's try that approach. So now in this case, instead of writing the static workflows, what we can do is we can ask LLM or the Gen AI models to reason and say, okay, what are the tools or the integrations they want to execute. So I said the word tools now, because that's an important word for the concept that I'm going to introduce next. So the tool is a concept what the Gen AI model, or there's another concept called AI agent, can execute. So tool can be an API, function, or it can be some database, or it can be anything that is executable. And basically, with these tools, we can do dynamic data retrieval, or maybe doing certain operations, and basically then let LLM decide what are the tools that it wants to execute, and we will execute them on behalf of them, and then feedback the data to the LLM. So that's the basic idea. We will go deeper into that a little bit, so we will understand it very clearly. So now we have the word this AI agent. So agent is a concept that has been there for a long time. So it's basically a system that can interact with this environment, and basically it can perform a certain task, a given task. So Gen AI agent is similar to that. it has set of actions or set of tools that it can perform. And when we define tools, we have to give them a name, description, and also what are the input parameters they are expecting, because those are the information important for Gen AI models to decide whether they want to use them, and also when they want to use them, basically control their behavior. Because you need the input parameters to say, okay, what are the information I want to fetch or filter out, those kind of things, right? And also if you want to submit a feedback, you need to tell the LLM, okay, this tool is expecting a feedback to be submitted as an input parameter. So when a user asks a question, what will happen is the agent will decide which tools use and also execute the tools dynamically, and then use the output from the tool to do the next set of reasoning. Because we can't expect the the task will be completed within a single iterations, right? So the tasks may continue multiple iterations. So I have a diagram also explaining a scenario. So we can ask a question like, who is speaking about AI at the conference? So when we ask this question, first thing it has to do, maybe, okay, look at the speaker information, or here to basically the agent has to fetch the session agenda. So it has to do one of the either. Let's assume it is basically fetching the session agenda. When the agent has fetched the session agenda, it will have all the information about the session, but also it has a set of IDs for these speakers, because that's the way we usually design the APIs, right? We don't have all the information with the API call. We have to decompose that. So then what it has to do is, it has to think, okay, now I need to figure out who are the speakers using these IDs. So then the agent has to talk to the speaker endpoint. Okay, there's an endpoint that can fetch the speaker information. And also, it will fetch the information relevant to only AI sessions, the speakers who are speaking at the AI session, not all the speakers. So it has to basically figure that out. And then once agent has enough information to answer the question, it will think, okay, I have enough information to answer the question, and this is the answer to the question you gave me. So this is the process is going to be with AI agents. So what do you say? We will build the agent and see how it works as said. Yeah. So now let's close this, because I'm going to use a different flow. And this is the part I said, like, okay, the earlier experience was very painful to build, right? So I think it was more painful for you to watch. So I will now go into the more simple approach, the easy approach, but also more advanced capability. So we have this automation called AI chat agents. So we can start creating one of them. So I will say use the WSO assistant as the name, and we will create one. And it will create an agent for us, but it's an empty agent, it's an empty shell, because it will not have any prompt, it will not have any models connecting. So now we have to only fill in these blocks to get it to work. So one thing I will do first, I will connect it to a model. So I will give it the OpenAI key. Sorry, I clicked the wrong one. Yeah. So I have the OpenAI key already configured. And I will change the model also to GPT-4. Yeah, I think that's look good. And then let's start giving the prompts. So in this case, we have done something a little bit different. You don't have the system prompt, you don't have the user prompt. You have to define like what's the role of that agent. So that's actually currently, it's kind of a pattern that widely adopted. So you don't, you can define the role as like WSO assistant, so WSO2Con assistant, something like that. And also say like what it is supposed to do. Yeah, so you say something like that. And we save it and see how it will work, right? Okay, so now we have an agent. but it doesn't have any tools. So it can't still answer the questions accurately, right? So we will connect some tools to this one. So I have one tool created for getting sessions. So actually this, again, an API call behind the scene. So it will call us get session API, the get agenda API I showed you earlier. And I will add it. And also we have an API call to get these speakers. Now I will add it. Now I think we are ready to go. Okay, I think we have to restart because I was running a previous instance. It didn't have this code. So I have restarted this. Let's see whether it's working. We can say like hi. Okay, who will be speaking? Okay. I think it will take a little bit of time because it has to go through the process like call 2 different APIs and also consume that information, make decisions. So there will be multiple LLM, the Gen AI calls happening also behind the scenes. Okay, we even have the photos. Yeah, so basically it's giving us the information. Okay, I'm also there. Yeah, so seems it's working, and you can see like how easily we basically build that. So earlier we were like struggling to get that experience to work, and also we have to write the integrations one by one. But in this case, we just have to say, okay, here these are the tools, or these are the APIs you have. And this is what I want you to do in natural language. You don't have to use any code. And it will basically do the integration for you. OK, so good job. You have made it so far. So I was expecting you guys to try it out also in the session, but I don't think we have time for setting it up and going through that. Yeah, so let's go through the journey so far. So we discussed like 3 key patterns for building Gen AI application. One is the Gen AI integration, what we tried in the beginning, where we have the API call, where we have the Gen AI model. We got the API response and manually injected that to the prompt. And the second type is the Retrieval-Augmented Generation, where we try to filter out only the relevant data and basically generate the responses. Then we discussed lastly the Gen AI agents, so which is the most interesting pattern, I guess. And also, yeah, it's very simple to build this stuff, if you look at it. But what's actually happening is the opposite. So although it's easier to build this stuff, very few is going to the production. And let's see why. Yeah, so, I mean, this can be a little bit opinionated as well, but as we are seeing, a common pitfall is most of the organizations are trying to build this stuff, and also only small fraction made it to production. And why when we are thinking why it's happening, so what happening is some of the people, some of the developers or some of the organizations, they treat it as an AI problem. And on the other half of the organization, they treat it as a complete integration problem. But what we are seeing when we are building this application, when we are trying to basically build practical and also useful applications, it's a bit of both. It's not just integration, it's not just AI. To understand this, so to understand this, first let's think like what actually make these Gen AI applications successful. The one thing you notice, they have to be anyway accurate, right? So if they are giving any wrong answers, they are not actually useful. So the second thing I think you notice when we are trying out the demo also, we need acceptable latency. We can't wait forever till they give us the answer, right? So it happens sometimes. So that means these are not good applications or successful applications yet. And the other thing is they have to scale also under varying load. So there can be spikes happening. So in those cases also they have to scale, and also they have to securely access data, because right now we just access the public data, but you can integrate these applications to your enterprise data, which may have a lot of confidential information, etc. So basically you have to ensure, and also there can be a case where we have data from some user, multiple users, and you want to build a GenAI application to answer only that particular users, using only that particular user's information. So those kind of situations can be there. So in those cases, we have to be very careful and basically improve the situation. I mean, basically make sure the data is not shared between users or with the unwanted parties. And the other thing is they can be misused heavily, because you can ask different questions. You can maybe use our chat applications to write your stuff. Then we will be paying for that. So there can be a lot of misuse can happen. And also, there has to be some explainability, some visibility, because in our examples also, when we are trying them out, if something goes wrong, or if it not executing the tools, etc., for example, agent can give you an answer anyway, right? So it basically gives you an answer somehow. But we don't know what tools it has executed to get that answer. We don't know whether they have been successful. Maybe there is an API error. So because of that, the tool is failing, but still the agent will give you some answer. So that can happen also. So visibility is very important. Yeah, so let's think of one case and see like how we can improve. And also you'll see like how we use different expertise to make it better, like the integration and also AI side. So if we are an AI engineer, what we will think when we want to improve the GenAI application is, we can do the prompt tuning. Obviously, also it's known as prompt engineering, so it's a very popular technique. It's not just a technique, it's a bunch of techniques. So, and also you can do the hyperparameter optimizations. So I think most popular hyperparameter is the temperature of the GenAI model. So that will determine the creativity or the randomness of the model generation. So you can play around it and basically make it a little bit better. And also other option is you can fine tune them, which is again a great option. But the thing is, whether they can help you to optimize the level you want to achieve. So what we think, you can also optimize these things by optimizing the integration aspects as well. For example, let's take a step back and think about the question I asked from the agent. I asked like, who is speaking about AI at the conference? So to get the accurate response, now agent has to first query about the conference agenda, then look for the speaker information, and also there's a hidden task also. It has to go and basically map the speaker names with the IDs. So there are a lot of risk. Not like risk like breaching data or anything, but there are risks. So one risk is having an incorrect decision, making an incorrect decision. Maybe it would just call the conference API and get all the AI-related sessions and then say, okay, speaker 123 is basically speaking about AI. Just give the IDs. So that can happen. And also other thing is it can do a false mappings. For example, it can map a certain speaker's name to a different ID. That can happen because those are accuracy problems, right? So one thing is we have to recognize this kind of risk, because unless we recognize them, we can't mitigate or we can avoid them, right? So that's the first thing. So that will require you having some sort of AI perspective, having some sort of sensibility about the accuracy aspect, because these are not deterministic flaws. These are probabilistic flaws where there can be a lot of mistakes happening within the integration. So one way to solve this is by having a better integration. So I know it's very obvious, but to get to that answer, it will require a certain thought process. So the current approach is we will call two APIs, and there will be two iterations. But instead of that, why don't we have a single tool that can combine the agenda, the information with the session ID. Basically replace the session IDs manually and then add the speaker information. I know we were trying to avoid that, but in this case, this is a very special case because most of the times whenever we get these questions, we will need to have these two informations together. You can't answer a question just by omitting a speaker name or just by omitting the session information. Even, for example, if somebody asks who is Frank, then we have to basically incorporate Frank's name and also say, okay, he's doing a session and this is his session title and everything, all those information. Otherwise, a little bit incomplete, right? Because we have to relate to the WSO2Con context. So if you think about that, that means having them together is more useful. And also when we have them together, there are a bunch of advantages as well, because that will avoid all those risks that we discussed earlier. That means it will improve the accuracy. And also, since now we don't need 2 iterations to call the Gen AI API, so it will improve the latency, and also the cost will be lower. So we will have a lot of advantages by doing this optimization. And if you think a little bit deeper about that, so in traditional integration world, it makes sense for those API to decompose into 2 resources. But when we come to these agentic integrations, it doesn't make sense anymore, so you have to basically do that kind of optimization. So, and one other way to achieve this is, you have to basically rewrite the APIs, or in a way, they are agent compatible. So this is an idea we are also discussing. I mean, whether current APIs are agent compatible. For example, if you even look at the public API, they have a lot of IDs, right? So even if you call Google API or whichever the API, they have a bunch of IDs. So now agent has to go and do all the work to figure out how to map these IDs. So these are not agent compatible APIs. So we have to maybe go and improve the API, which is something we can do, or we can basically write a tool. That means like a bunch of code wrapping around these API codes and do these integrations manually. So it will help us a lot. Actually, help agent a lot. And also another example is like how AI perspective can help. Because if you look at this, I mean, for example, we discussed like 4 use cases, right? If you look at all those use cases and think, okay, how can I implement them easily? Then we will think, okay, I will use agents, right? So I can just write them as agents, do the prompt, and also integrate the APIs. And it's going to be very easy like that, right? But actually, if you think from an AI perspective, it's going to be an overkill, and also it's an unnecessary risk. For example, if we look at the session advisor case, which is where we basically try to give the attendees a set of recommended sessions they can attend based on their interests. So we have 2 information. One information is we have the agenda. Second information is we have the interest of that attendee. For example, he likes AI, he wants to learn more about AI, or APIM, like that. We have that information. So if we build an agent, we will basically give all those information as tools to the agent. There are 2 tools then. And then let agent figure it out. But that flow is actually fixed, right? So there's nothing agent to decide. So we know we need all those information to make the, basically do the recommendations. So why would we have an agent doing all those things and making a lot of risk and compromising accuracy when we can make it more simple? So in those kind of cases, what we would suggest is just do a Gen AI integration. You have all the data fetch and basically give it to the prompt, and then use that as your Gen AI application, because that will avoid a lot of risk. And to make that decision, you need to have a little bit of understanding about the accuracy and also what are the probabilistic nature of yeah. I think we have